In this video, it is a jump across from my Instagram video about talking what is the best part of the rep. Is it on the way down? Is it on the way up? So we answer that question in this video. So let's get into it. The eccentric plus concentric parts of a rep. How they work together to build muscle and what to focus on. Because this is the biggest one. It's like some people will be like, oh, it's the squeeze that's important. It's the fucking length and partial that's important. Let's get into the weeds and work out exactly where the most important part is. Muscle grows when you're consistently exposed to high mechanical tension, so training close to failure, and enough to send a signal from you training hard to your brain, and then your brain goes, we need to put on more muscle, and then the food that you eat, the high protein diet, the keep it simple, tasty, repeatable meals, allow it to grow through protein synthesis. We need to get stronger for next time. That is the signal we want to send to our muscles. Okay, part one. What are the two phases? We've got the eccentric, so it's on the way down. And this is where the muscle goes through the longest position. It's also it is the weakest, being in the lengthened position. Both the shortened and the lengthened position on a muscle is the weakest part. The mid-range is the most important. You'll see that in a lot of pressing where you're strong through the middle and just sort of weak at the bottom and pretty weak at the top as far as being able to do a rep. So it is the higher force production. It's a greater muscle damage. So this is potentially, if you're one of the slow motion bros and you're sore all the time and you're chasing soreness, it is probably more so that you're focusing too hard on really slow controlled reps. This, it is just a byproduct. Muscle damage doesn't mean that your muscle is growing. You don't particularly want to build up muscle damage. It's, just a byproduct of training hard. But again, really slow eccentrics are one way to make sure that you're always sore all the time. Longer time under tension, more hypertrophy potential, somewhat. It's, a debate between the two, because really what you'll see the difference is with the concentric is you can handle more load eccentrically because you're just focusing on the down. There's plenty of good ways to progress bench press and squat and stuff by focusing on tempos and things like that to use less load, but then you actively, using different pathways to get stronger. This is the concentric part of the lift, and this, in my opinion, is the most important because it does this. It does a higher amount of motor unit recruitment, which means that you're going to be firing more fibers and telling that signal at a higher capacity that it needs to send more protein here to build more muscle mass. So this is where it really comes down to the fact of you want a nice eccentric, so the rep looks pretty, but then that allows you to have a really strong concentric and get a really strong rep off the ground as well. So it's critical for strength and performance, and you can produce less force here, but the focus, if you're not using momentum, is to still have that part of the lift under control as well. So how they work together, the eccentric loads the muscle, the concentric expresses the force. Together they create tension that drives adaptation. More so from the concentric side because that's where all the high motor recruitment is and the high fiber recruitment is, as opposed to the eccentric as well. So it loads the muscle, creates that tension. That's why it's important to still slow things down and make sure it's, you're under control. A slight little pause in the tension in the bottom I really like. So like a 0.5 I usually go for with most exercises, like the squeeze, I guess you would call it. And then from here, the concentric expresses those fibers and recruits more fibers, which is really the game changer here, and why the concentric is where most muscle is actually built as well. So you don't grow during the rep, you grow after the rep. The rep is the stimulus, and the food allows that stimulus to be then moved into building muscle mass. So what does the rep tempo say as far as the latest sort of science? Similar hypertrophy across a wide range of controlled tempos. 1 to 3 seconds down. It doesn't really matter. Your body doesn't understand that. It's just working out how to hold tension for the duration. There's no difference between it doing a 3-second down and an 8-second down. It's still just holding the same level of tension. Whereas the concentric, because that's the slowing down of the movement, that is where the muscle fibers are actually recruited in those high motor units as well. So total reps close to failure and mechanical tension are the biggest drivers. There you go. So essentially here, what that means is, are your reps slowing down towards the end of the set? So slow eccentrics can increase muscle growth when load is matched. I would yes and no with this. I would also say that, there is still a lot of benefit to slow eccentrics. Like if you're really jacked and you're maxing out lots of machines, it's probably of benefit for you to slow this down. But that in turn is just going to allow the concentric to be that much more effective because you're fatiguing that muscle to allow it to sort of, get into that zone where it's going to slow down as well. So explosive concentric, you want to move it with intent. That's the main thing that you do with the concentric. You don't want to just try and slow that down as well. It's like, no, you want to explode out of there under control. You don't want to lose position, but enough to actually move the rep up and down. What matters most is proximity to failure, not perfection. So again, like as you sort of learn technique and things like that, and you've got a great base level of technique for your biomechanics, this is where you need to start to just really work hard. Like to focus so anally on technique is one way, a surefire way to never progress. So control the lowering. This is the translation. Be more explosive on the way up, get close to failure, and repeat. That's pretty much it. Tempo, like every other thing, like exercises, and all that, it's a tool, okay? But the main thing is that we need to be creating is that tension so the body knows that it needs to put on muscle mass. Okay, so 2 myths is we've got the slow motion bros, and we've got the, by any means, we're going to move this weight. Because slow is always better, it burns, fatigues the muscle faster, which is not wrong, but also at the same time, it's just going to lead to a lot more sort of recoverability issues when you go too slow. Chasing burn, it does not mean you're chasing growth. Burn is mostly metabolic stress, and it's not a main driver of hypertrophy. There are some researchers that show that it does do a little bit, but it's not enough to sort of really guarantee it. And to be honest, you get that from getting a pump anyway. You don't have to just get it by doing, slow eccentrics. Going too slow often reduces the load you can use, which, like I said before, if you're really jacked and really strong, a fantastic way to still progress. Less load equals less mechanical tension to some degree as well. Like you can still, again, this goes back to the really jacked people, is that, there's a risk of injury there if you're using a heap of load on certain things. So slowing things down is definitely of benefit, especially if you're a power lifter as well, and you're trying to progress your bench, or every exercise in powerlifting is dangerous to a degree if you don't do it properly. And using tempos in that degree and learning the skill and different variations across a training block is key. Burn isn't bad, but again, chasing it over tension is where progress dies as well. So, you're just trying to get a pump, or you're just trying to slow things down so you feel something. Remember, training is just a lot more than just chasing a sensation. We need to be seeing progress as far as strength. Strength is the main measurement. If your strength is going up over the course of a training block, you're doing something right. As long as I move the weight, it counts. You see these guys, they're on the lat pull downs, they're using all sorts of momentum, they're bouncing the barbell off their chest. And this just causes, the worst case scenario is it causes injuries because you're not holding tension correctly, you're not bracing yourself, you're not using the target muscles, you're just using essentially just your, bones and joints to move a weight off you by any means necessary. So momentum steals the stimulus. Again, with the concentric, just doesn't happen because you're using your whole body to do it. Rather than the target muscle to see that change in the reps, slowing down towards the end of the set. So short and range, they're usually just, sort of working here. They're never really going through that full lengthened position. Everyone's range of motion is different. So there's no sort of like set range of motion. It's going to be different for everyone, and it's going to, show up in different ways. As long as, and especially depending on what machine you're using as well, will depend on the range of motion that you get out of something. This whole idea that you have to be going full range with everything, in my opinion, is just, internet woo-woo, and you need to be making sure with your programming that you're hitting all these ranges, and then from there you don't have to be hitting full range with everything because the exercises are dictating what range you're targeting that muscle through. So moving weight, just building muscle, it works for a little bit, but then at a certain point you either get injured or you just notice that you're really strong, but you just don't change in the mirror as often as you'd like. 6, why poor rep execution leaves gains on the table. So poor reps, they just leak tension because you're bouncing it off your chest, you're rusting the eccentric, you've got no control. And if you have no control, then you have no control in the concentric where you're going to be recruiting these fibers, which means you're going to get a lesser stimulus, which means you're going to have put less muscle mass on. This is essentially what this is all talking about here. You want to control that lower. I like a slow 1 second count or a fast 2 second count on the way down, a slight pause at the bottom, so like half a second. Push as hard as you can on the way up with intent and good control, pause at the top, and then go again. Within the full range of motion of where your biomechanics go and your range and where your mobility allows is a good one to think about. And, from there, like better reps equals more tension, more growth. You won't just, it's not just going to lead to you being strong, but not looking like it, which is a big one that I see a lot of guys. They can move a lot of weight, but man, they just do not have the chest to sort of back it up. There's a big sort of semi-powerlifting issue there. So how do we improve this? Well, 7, we want to learn it. So we use slower tempos to learn the movement, to understand the position and the postures that we have to hold with the dedicated machines or exercise, whatever you got in front of it. And then from that, you want to record that and be aware of what that looks like for you. And then you having a coach, if you don't have a coach, hello, and you send it to your coach and he goes, this, and this, and then you can fix it and you're going to be in such a better position to be putting on more muscle mass really quickly. This is such an underrated tool. Like recording yourself. I know in Australia we're all super fucking conservative and we're worried that, someone's going to put it up online and tease you or whatever you think it may be. But you think about any other sport, they watch their games. They watch how they play all the time. That's what game tape is. And that's how they learn really quickly and get better and beat teams. The same goes with your lifts. So you want to apply it. Once your technique is like automatic, you're in the great spot. You now need to just learn how to like push hard here. Push hard with good form. And then that effort drives the adaptation. Okay, so technique really gets you in that door, and then the effort and progression from that program will keep you growing as well. So that's something that never sort of, you never want to just sort of go, oh, my technique's perfect. I don't need to focus on it anymore. But once it's sort of in a really good spot, it's not something that you just need to constantly anally zoom in on and find every micro wrong with your training. As that, again, like I said before, it will lead to you making no progress. So a rep range is one of the most underrated tools that you need to add into your program. Very easily, it's like most programs will say 3 by 8 reps. What happens if I get 10? What happens if I get 6? Does that mean I haven't done enough? These are some of the questions that I usually answer when people come and jump on a call with me. So this is the double progression model from the Look Like You Train training method that's inside Grounded Strength that I use on myself and all my guys and girls. Is we want to build reps. Reps are the first example that we want to build. So you can see the example here across the 5 weeks. It's the same load. But you can see here, between the 6 and 10 rep range, he or her started at 6. Next week, they got 7 reps. They got 8. They got 9. They got 10. Now they've earned the top of the range of the rep range. Now they've earned the right to go up by, in this example here, 2.5 kilos. You could go up by 5. You could go up by 10. If you're really fucking strong, you go up by 20. But again, you want to make sure that you've got good control over, quality reps. You don't want to just slap weight on there and then all of a sudden everything, goes fucking pear-shaped and you're just using momentum and you get nothing out of it. But this allows for almost unlimited progress in the gym because it takes away this need to try and add more and more weight. Weight is really important, but also reps is a way to add weight because, 100 by 6 equals X amount of total load. If you add an extra rep to that, there's extra total load that your body has to adapt to and so forth. It's not just have to be weight. Okay, this keeps getting you stronger with good form and good rep speed as well. Because with like using just say a method like reps in reserve, if you follow that double progression model, you're able to understand how you train to failure really well and at really good amounts of weight that you can control as well. So this is something that I'm applying now that because I'm going through a photo shoot prep is that you're allowed to sort of have these realms where you can do lower reps on things. Effective reps go down almost down to 3 and all the way up to 30 as far as if you're training close to failure. So when I'm getting closer and closer and I want to try and keep my strength without, fucking killing myself on certain exercises, I'll just lower these reps. And then this double progression model, I'm able to progress on lower end range, lower range reps. So AKA ego lift and still get a benefit of all the things that we just spoke about as far as rep speed, mechanical tension and stuff like that. So because we want us to, while we're trying to diet, we still want to be training really heavy as that's again, a way that we've built our muscle. So we need to be able into working in the same level of tensions to maintain it as well. So here's the summary of today. Control the eccentric, just slut drop it, I call it, and drive the concentric. You've got to move it with intent and keep good control. Use a full range of motion for wherever your mobility allows. Get close to failure. And progress with a plan. The double progression model through the Look Like You Train training method through Grounded Strength is, in my opinion, the best way to progress. All the guys and girls on the team are constantly hitting PBs, no matter what sort of phase they're in, whether they're dieting, whether they're bulking, etc., etc. And of course, stay consistent as well. So high tension reps done consistently over time equals hypertrophy, equals big muscles and front double biceps. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you like what I have to say, there's a link down below to book a call if you are stuck with this and you want someone else to take the reins and control it all for you and help you out as far as watching your lifts and making sure that you're progressing every single week. If that's you, again, there's a call link. But if you just like my videos, it'd be awesome if you could subscribe, and make sure you do follow me on Instagram as well, as there's my handle in the description. Goodbye.